right, guys, here we go.
One of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on. And he'd say, boss, we got this and that and the other thing. And I'd look at him and I'd say, good. And finally, one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem. And he said, I already know what you're going to say. I said, well, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good. He said, that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good. And I said, well, yeah, when things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on the other one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out. Don't get startled. Don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well, then hell, you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
Guys, any thoughts on that? Any takeaways? Because I'll talk for a second as you're all getting your thoughts together. I really like that because I even think it speaks to what we were talking about earlier today about having rough things not going the way we want them. And we've talked about making decisions before, right? We can either curl up in a ball and run home and be like, I'm not sure if you've been here any length of time, you hear Van talk about the cows and the buffaloes. When there's a storm, buffaloes actually will run into the storm because they figured out that it will pass over them quicker and they'll get out of it quicker, where the cows will run and all they're doing is running away from it. So they're actually putting themselves into the storm for longer. When things don't go our way, we can look at it, as a negative or as an opportunity, a chance to kind of restart. I started off this week really well on Monday. A lot of it was carryover from last week. And then I had two large businesses decide to hold off on their enrollments. I mean, one company had 40, the other one has 12 coming over from Aflac. And I'll be honest, I was in a little bit of coast mode. I'm like, I have Lakeside Concrete and Larson Landscape. I can just kind of coast on those guys and to hit my goal for the end of the year. And then they both decided to wait. And I'll even admit on Wednesday, took a little bit of a mental holiday. And yesterday I was like, you know what? I need to pick myself up. How did, and I asked myself, how did I create those two opportunities? And I know what I did. And I was like, you know what? I can go out and do those same actions again and recreate those same opportunities. And I have stuff that's going that way. Is any other thoughts on that?
I just think it's really easy for us to get down in the dumps with this career. I was there. I mean, I would drive to my territory and sit in my car for 3 hours and not even want to go into a business. And I shared that with Caitlin, and she's like, I would never would have expected that out of you. I was like, well, it happened.
It does.
But we just have to remember that, I'm going to go back to God again, but He's put us in these jobs for a reason. And, we just got to make sure we're being a blessing and, trusting that He's going to provide. If we get down to the low, something's going to come up. As long as we're working and doing our part of this, we're going to be okay, guys. And so that's the big thing for me now is as long as I do my part and I'm doing what I'm supposed to, everything else is going to be okay.
And Brandy, real quick, because I love where you're going with this. When we talk about doing our part for some of our newer partners, what does doing our part look like?
I mean, it's just going into every business and talking to them and sharing with them what we can do and how we can protect them.
Right. So keeping up our activity.
Keeping our activity up. We can't necessarily control how many demos we can get, but we can control how many contacts we make or how many businesses we walk into. We can't control whether they buy or not, but we can control that we thank them and leave them in a happy mood.
That's right. Right. Brandy, wait, I had something to, so activity is key. And as Brandy said, we can never control what someone else does or doesn't do. We can control ourselves. And then I think the other part of that, Brandy, how important has using the sales talk as taught been to you?
It's very, very, very important. Like me and Kyle had our one-on-one yesterday, and he was talking about the buying atmosphere, and I was like, well, look, I'm just going to do it, and you can critique it. And I did it, and he's like, no, your buying atmosphere is good. I was like, okay. And the reason that we're taught these things for a reason. They do work, making sure that you're asking about that spousal objection, so you don't get that in the end. I've been here a year, not that long. And guys, there's still so much that I'm learning. So if you've only been here for a couple months, you have not learned half of what you need to learn yet. So give yourself the grace. When you get down or you're having a bad time, call someone and ask someone to help you. We're all nothing but a phone call away on that.
Brandy, I've been here 3 years. I don't think we ever stop learning. And I want to share one quick story too, and then we'll keep moving. Brandy said she had a day where she didn't want to get out of her car for a couple hours. You guys, you will get to the point you want to quit. I mean, I swear you can ask Mark, because probably 10 times a week I want to quit. Ken Matheson, our president, when I was at 101 training, Ken shared a story that when he was in the field, he got so frustrated one day that he got out of his car and sat on the side of the road and cried. So if the president of Family Heritage can get that frustrated, far be it from us to think that we can't get that frustrated. And I think, like Brandy said, it's not keeping out of being frustrated. It's letting yourself be there for a moment, but it's your reaction to how you handle that frustration. This goes back to a little bit of our talk we had on decisions and how we spend our time. Do you curl up in a ball and say that's it and run home and kind of be a cow? Or are you more of a buffalo and dust yourself off and keep going and keeping up your activity and using your sales talk? Guys, any other thoughts before we keep going here?
One thing I did is I recorded a demo just to see what areas, because I knew there was a lot of areas I need to work on, but just to see so that way I could focus more pinpoint. Once I read back, listened to it, more pinpoint as to what it is that I need to focus on and work on. Yep.
No, and Richard, I think that speaks to something Van and I were talking about yesterday, because actually Van and I had a talk about what kind of themes or what are areas where newer agents are getting hung up on. And one of them was the lack of getting better, even if it's 1% every day. Van told me a story. He had like 2-3 days in a row where it were 0 days, 9-10 hours sitting in the car, getting the same objections, pounding on the steering wheel. and he called Peter, who was Van's AO, and he had a talk with Peter, and Peter said something to Van about it. I believe it. I may be getting this wrong, guys, but Van went home and recorded his demo. I mean, at the end of a 9-10 hour day, the last thing any of us really want to do is keep working on getting better. But Van did that. He incorporated the suggestions that he got from Peter, went out the next day. Didn't work the first couple of times, but guess what? The third or fourth time he did it, it worked. So everything, it's Caitlin, it's not, everything is not a straight line like, oh, I have this magic bullet. It will take time. I did last week and this week, I did my first group Zoom presentations. I'm trying to figure out the challenge for those is getting the yes cards back. So we're working through that. I'll be honest, first two didn't go. First one, I got 0 responses. Second one, I got 2 of my dot forms back. So definitely a work in progress. But doesn't mean we throw the towel on that idea. I mean, I've reached out to, Van's working on it. Rachel Hutchison's working on it with me. We're all kind of digging in. And rather than saying, you know what, hey, that just flat out doesn't work because you don't have a way to get your cards, we're trying to put our heads down and figure out how we can make it work. So back in the spring, when I first started doing this call, I actually spoke with Craig Senna, who some of you may know is the head of our training for Family Heritage. And I said, Craig, I need some suggestions of what to talk about on these calls. And Craig's suggestion was to focus on 3 big areas where newer agents have trouble. So we've talked about in the weeks past, and again, we'll cycle back around to rejections and objections, dealing with those and what they really mean. And the third one is sourcing. Because if you think about it, it all comes down to where we find our clients.
Whoever brought in the most money after 6 months was usually hired.
Yes, hello, Chris Gardner, calling for Mr. Walter Hahn.
We were all working our way up call sheets to sign clients. From the bottom to the top.
Yes, sir.
From the doorman to the CEO. They'd stay till 7, and I had Christopher. I had to do in 6 hours what they'd do in 9.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Gardner. I'm calling from Dean Witter.
In order not to waste any time, I wasn't hanging up the phone in between calls.
Okay, thank you very much.
Realized that by not hanging up the phone, I gained another 8 minutes a day.
Why, good morning to you. My name is Chris Gardner. I'm calling from Dean Witter.
I also wasn't drinking water, so I didn't waste any time in the bathroom.
Yes, I'd love to have the opportunity. Okay, no problem at all, sir. Thank you very much.
But even doing all this, after 2 months, I still didn't have time to work my way up a sheet.
We're feeling real confident about that one as well.
Walter Ribbon's office.
Yes, hello. My name is Chris Gardner. I'm calling for Mr. Walter Ribbon.
It's her name?
Yes, ma'am. I'm calling from Dean Witter.
Just a moment.
Hello?
Mr. Ribbon. Hello, sir. My name's Chris Gardner. I'm calling from Dean Witter.
Yeah, Chris.
Yes, Mr. Ribbon, I would love to have the opportunity to sit with you to discuss some of our products, and I'm certain that I could be of some assistance to you.
Can you be here in 20 minutes?
20 minutes, absolutely.
Just had someone cancel. Come now. Give you a few minutes before the 49ers. Monday Night Football, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Any thoughts on that little clip? Any takeaways?
Well, he went to the big fish.
Yep, absolutely. So Greg, he kind of flopped around how what I'm getting is that their lists were set up so they started at the bottom. They were starting with the little fish, and then they had to work their way up to the top, and he just wasn't getting to the top. So he made the great decision of, hey, rather than start with the little fish and have to kind of buck his way through those, let's just go for the big fish. Because what he was finding is something that Kate Wright from the referral course is called our most valuable clients, our most valuable prospects, our MVPs. We'll get to that in a second. How about his time? I mean, saving 8 minutes a day over the course of a day may not seem like that long, right? 8 minutes even out of 6 hours. But you think about it, that in that 8 minutes that he saved, that might be the 8 minutes where he found his MVP, where he found his most valuable process. What Greg, Brandy, what kind of things do you do to help protect your time during the day? Because time is something that we cannot ever get back or create.
I'll say that I am not necessarily the best at protecting my time, but I really try to, when I'm out, try to think of the 5-minute rule. Don't sit in my car no more than 5 minutes. No more than 5 minutes. Go, go, go. Yep. So that's something new that I just started last week.
Brenda, didn't I hear this helped you write your eagle last week, packing your lunch?
Oh yes, it definitely did. I felt good eating like
That's key.
Instead of
Greg, what?
I was going to say, and that is key. I did the same thing.
I do the same thing too. It is rare that I actually go out to lunch. If I have a new person with me, yes, we'll go to lunch and I make it more of a working lunch. But it is rare that I mean, if I stop for a bottle of water, that's rare. Yes, I will go to Starbucks. Use those that know me will know we will go to Starbucks briefly. But no, absolutely. As we have to protect our time, because that is one thing that we can never recreate or get back. And so Greg, we're thinking about when he went for the big fish at the top. What type of clients are we looking for? What type of clients are going to help us maximize our time? So guys, here's a little video about that.
Let me go through this pretty quickly. It's not on the PowerPoint. Yeah, basically 4 types of clients. How many types? 4, okay? 4 types of clients. The first type of client is what I call cheap clients. Cheap clients. They buy based on price. Cheap. Cheap clients. How many have seen some of these cheap clients before? Okay, describe, what are they like? What do they sound like?
Honda Civics. Honda Civics.
Honda Civic, yes, okay. How much is it? Like, they don't even know what you do. They pick up the phone, how much you charge? How many have got those phone calls before? Don't you just hate those? They don't even know what you do. They don't know the value you provide. How much it cost? Oh, that's okay, I'm just shopping around, right? Yes.
It's like one thing where you say, oh, I charge $100, but then they say, oh, I thought somebody told me you charge $40.
Okay, you say you charge this, and it's all, but someone told me you only charge this. Yes.
When they ask you, what is your best price?
Oh, what's your best price? Yeah, okay.
You give them a price, and they'll be like, holy crap, I could get someone on Fiverr to do it for $5.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yes, that's a good one.
They're often more discerning about terms or quality of service.
Are they very demanding?
Yes.
Okay. Do they truly appreciate what you offer? No. Even they try to do a good job, and you think, by the way, bad idea. You think, oh well, I'll just kind of take them in first, and I'll bend over backwards, and I'll try to prove myself, and then maybe they'll see my value and they'll pay me more. No, ain't gonna happen, because it's in their nature. They're fucking cheap. Ever seen those shows? What is it? Those TV shows? What is it? Extreme couponer or something like that? Have you seen those before? Like these people, they clip the coupons and go into dumpsters and get these coupons and they buy like 500 toothpaste, right? At home and all that stuff, right? And they're like, I'm looking at that show,
I think it's fascinating. It's truly fascinating. Wow, like you can do this, and how they buy a truck like just a full shopping cart of groceries for like $50 or something like that, and they're very proud of it. Nothing wrong with that, but in my mind, it's like I'm glad I'm not selling to them. I'm just glad I'm not selling them. That's all, right? So you have cheap customers, and then you have what I call difficult customers. Okay? Difficult customers. So difficult customers, they are not necessarily cheap. They are just difficult. Okay? Usually they're having a bad day, they're trying to make your day worse. They are just difficult to deal. They're not that pleasant. They don't smile that much. You look at them, it's like, Jesus, man. Like, it's just like somehow they've got this negative, you sense, they got this negative energy about them. How many have met those customers before? Yeah. What do they sound like? What do they sound like? My life sucks. they will tell you, my life sucks, man. My life sucks. Yes, that one.
I don't have time for this.
I don't have time for this. Yes.
The world's going to shit.
The world's going to shit. Great, great. The world's going to shit. I like it. Yes. You have too many upsells. Okay, yes. So difficult customers. Now, you think in terms of in the marketplace, there aren't actually a majority of the people, a majority I'm talking about, okay? You have a lot of people who are cheap customers, you have a lot of people who are difficult customers. Now, most entrepreneurs, believe it or not, subconsciously, not conscious, but subconsciously, they structure their business in a way or their marketing message, craft the marketing message in a way, attract these people. They don't even know it. They don't even know it. And then you have what I call sophisticated customers. What are they? Sophisticated customers. These people, they have money, but they're sophisticated, they're educated, they know what they're buying. Okay? So cheap clients buy based on price, yes? Okay? These guys are just very demanding. They don't even know what the fuck they want, man. They just want to make your life worse. Sophisticated customers, they go into your business, they know exactly what they want. They're very clear. They've done their research. They have talked to a few people. Then so they would tell you, example, if it's sophisticated customers, if they go buy a vehicle, yes, Nathan.
You want to be the source of that education.
It could be that you've been the source of that education. But they would go into, let's say if someone who goes to buy a car, they would know, okay, I know exactly, here's the model I want. Here's exactly all the features that I want. Here's the color that I want. Here's the payment plan or lease or whatever. They know exactly, they've done all the research. They're very, very sophisticated. Now, dealing with these customers, yes, Nathan, sometimes you could educate them and they appreciate that. They like that. Because by giving them more information, okay, you guys know what you're talking about. So it builds trust. Or sometimes knowing when you're selling to sophisticated customers, they need time. They need what? So they may go in, they're asking, they ask a lot of questions. But the questions are very different from difficult customers, okay? The difficult customers, they ask just illogical questions. Okay, but these guys, they're very sophisticated. They're asking intelligent questions. How many have met those? Yes? What do they sound like? Tell me. What questions they ask? What do they sound like? What are they like? Describe them to me. How much warranty would they get? Yes? Timeline, yes? Knowledgeable, yes?
Features and benefits.
Features and benefits, okay, how does this work? Yes. Yeah, you'll get back to you before you get back to them, very good. So they may leave me more time and say, okay, great information, I just need to do a little more research. And this is very different than these guys that say, well, I'll think about it, never get back to you. They actually need some time to think it over, talk with some people, because usually when they make a decision, they stick with that decision. Say, I'm gonna buy, right? Yes. Someone from the back? Yes. Terms and conditions, and maybe even have you explain to me your terms and conditions, all the details. Yeah, sign it and fine print, right? Sophisticated. So there's a difference, sophisticated, okay? And then you have what I call affluent customers. Affluent customers. So with affluent customers, they buy based on feelings. They buy based on feelings. Does this feel good? So it's like when I was going in the car dealership buying the RX-8, I actually do not know all the features, horsepower. I don't know any of that stuff. I just think it's a cool car. That's it. That's my buying criteria. It's a cool car. And I can afford it, I'm getting it. And if the manager was like nice and he's, hey man, this is a very special car. This is, this kind of color, this and that. Okay, I'm buying based on feelings. So the mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, they try to sell to affluent clients. They say to them, I'm gonna give you a deal. They don't want a deal. Because they are thinking, if you give me a deal, what does that mean? Is you cheapening it? Is there something wrong with it? Right? What is going on? Or sometimes they try to educate too much, just like the salesman did to me. Try to educate. I don't need that. I wasn't for that. In that case, I'm not a sophisticated buyer. I'm an affluent buyer, right? And sometimes in life, if I'm making an investment, I'm a sophisticated buyer. I'm making an investment, right? If I'm just buying toilet paper, yeah, then I may buy cheap. I mean, there's some stuff. And sometimes you look at ourselves in lives, sometimes in certain areas, we are affluent buyers, like, yeah, no problem. It's certain aspects, we're very sophisticated. Certain buyers, we're just cheap, right? We want a good deal. But think in terms of your business. Who do you want to sell to, by the way? Left side, right side? Right side. I want to sell the right side, okay? So take 2 minutes, how long? Discuss the 4 types of customers.
That was a little bit long, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. Who here, and it may be more Greg and Brandy or Noah, who's been here a little bit, who's had to deal with cheap customers? And what kind of coverage do they usually buy?
Base or standard?
Yes.
Usually base.
Base, yes. Absolutely. Thank you, Noah. Because they are only concerned about what it costs, not the potential it has for their family. And even if you point out, sometimes guys, there's a slight or moderate difference between levels on premium. And sometimes I always point that out. And a lot of times if somebody's a sophisticated buyer, they'll say, oh yeah, that extra $20 a month, whatever it is, that's worth it for my family to put double the money in our pocket. God forbid something happen. But will a cheap buyer do that?
No.
No, they're going to buy base. And the other bad thing is, does that business tend to stay on the books?
No.
No.
And I don't know how y'all run into that, but like I tell every one of my clients that, look, you buy the package or the preferred package, if things get tight, just give me a call. We can adjust down for you. People don't pick up this coverage, just to pay for it for 6 months and then lose it. I mean, it's an investment.
Right.
So I've had no clients do that yet. It's just terms.
Yeah. No, great group, absolutely. But at least you're planting that seed. And what I find too is that helps somebody be more comfortable to write that elite or preferred coverage, because they know, hey, if something happens, I have a backup plan. Something can be done. Okay, not to be stereotypical, but what kind of businesses do cheap customers tend to be more at? Even difficult customers. Does anybody run into kind of a?
Not really difficult customers, but it's more like your convenience stores, your Dollar Generals. Mm-hmm. If I'm sitting in front of an owner, I'm showing them the elite, and that's typically what they want. I've showed a preferred, and they're like, well, "What's the best?"
Right.
The elite. Well, that's what I want.
Right.
So.
Right. Greg, no, thank you, Greg. That's what I was hoping somebody would say. And again, not to be stereotypical, everybody needs what we offer, but my chart says employees at like a national chain, like a Dollar General, like a mobile, they're going to tend to write more. They're going to tend to write more base coverage versus sitting down with the owner. Even for me, working with blue collar type businesses that are locally owned, they tend to write more of the other kind of business, which we'll get to in a second. How about difficult customers? Nobody we talk to is ever difficult, right? Everybody loves us. So you can turn that back on. I can't see it. Guys, nobody's ever had a difficult customer, right? You just want to get out of there. Don't let them waste your time. No matter what you do, they're not going to change. It's going to be in the battle of the egos. All right, how about that sophisticated? What kind of coverage do they tend to write?
I mean, I get a lot of sophisticated customers that, you know, like if I'm talking to the husband and wife and they're like, you know what, we just want to sit down and really discuss this. That's where my bigger, sorry guys, my GPS is talking, but that's where a lot of my bigger, you know, $200-$300 a month policies come from.
Right. And Brandy, if they're writing $200-$300 a month, they're probably writing elite and preferred.
Yes. Yeah. They,
as we talked about in that video, they may take a little bit of time. They may say, hey, you know, we want to actually go look at our budget. But what you'll find is they will make a return appointment with you right then and there on the spot. And would you believe they actually do follow up and they're ready when you come back? And for me, that those customers, again, tend to come from locally owned, more blue collarish type businesses, you know, construction, HVAC, plumbing, because they understand the value of it and the importance. And then absolutely affluent, they write an elite coverage. Like Greg said, they just say, show me the best. Guys, here's one thing I want to touch on real quick. When we sit down with someone, you always want to make sure that you're showing the elite benefits, right? We can always work down. It's really hard to work up. And this is something I learned from Van. Always focus on the elite benefits.
And Trish, that
Yes.
is so true. I was, you know, a lot of the clients we deal with, and I know I talked with Brad about that a lot, was they're kind of, excuse me, lower to middle income people. So, you know, unless you're sitting in front of a business owner, that's the only time I was using elite. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, obviously you want people to get coverage, but at the same time, you want them to stay on the books.
Yes.
If you oversell someone, and I will tell you, I've told many a client when I'm sitting there, because I just see the momentum that's built up in them and they're just on fire. Mm-hmm. You know, they want the Mac Daddy package, you know, with, you know, all the bells and whistles and stuff. And that's great, but can they afford it?
Yes.
If I'm down with somebody at Dollar General and they're like, oh no, I want the elite, and that's $200 and something a month. Is that really doable? You know, I mean, and I'm not trying to gauge them. It's just, I ask them up front. I'm like, is this something you're going to be comfortable with making a payment on month to month? Because this is not the kind of coverage that you want to get, you know, today and then next month you can't afford it.
Great, Greg. So I think that absolutely talks to our responsibility as producers. Our job is not to sell as much gap as possible and to oversell. It is to protect their family. But I tell people it has to be a stress reducer, not a stress causer.
Right.
And I think some of this kind of comes, you know, from experience. Like Greg was saying, if you're sitting down with an owner, you know, definitely focus on elite. If I'm sitting with an older person or someone that I'm not quite sure about their budget, and not that that's ever our place to make a what would the word be? You know, decide for them. Maybe what I'll do is, rather than focus on the elite, if I go down the elite, I'll say may pay as much as, or if I'm thinking that for them, you know, we're probably going to be more comfortable closer to the standard, I'll just run down the middle and say, you know, pays for first diagnosis, pays for every day in the hospital. It's absolutely, that's our responsibility as producers to make sure that it fits in the budget. Again, I got this Craig Senna, one of the best lines I've ever gotten is do me a favor, think about if you had a magic coffee can in your kitchen, what would be a comfortable dollar amount to put away in that? And then you can kind of look and work backwards and show them what's going to fit that. And I think that makes us give a better impression as a sales professional because we are fitting their needs.
Yeah, and I agree, Trish. And, from a car sales aspect, because I had some experience in car sales, the saying was you can always peel them off the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So you hit them high and you can work down, but you can never hit them low and then try to work up.
Right.
So that's kind of the whole thing with the elite, because typically what I find is that the elite package is typically about twice as much as a preferred, in my area anyway. So, it is a lot more expensive for the elite. But it's all gauging your client and knowing kind of where they want to be.
Yep.
What they're comfortable with. Because, I tell every one of them, look, there's not a bad level of coverage.
Mm-mm.
You can move up and down on these anytime as long as nothing's happened, in the interim, so, if down the road things loosen up, you get a promotion or something, you want to bump it up to a higher level, you can do that as long as nothing's happened.
Right.
But at the same time, if things kind of get tight, you can also drop it down without any problem. So,
right. Yeah. Great. I tell people things are written in sand, not concrete.
Well, there you go, Trish.
That kind of gets the point across. So guys, absolutely. So what kind of customers do we want? From the right side, the sophisticated and the affluent? And a sophisticated customer may be someone that buys standard level coverage if that's what fits in their budget. Do we want those type of customers, or do we want the cheap, difficult customers? I know it's kind of a silly question. So it all comes down to finding our MVPs. So for us, what does an MVP look like? Someone that's willing to make a decision. Even if that's a no, getting a no frees up our time. Has their payment information. And not to be stereotypical, because actually last week I protected 3 firefighters who were in their late 60s. Generally someone under 55. Those people are most likely to make a decision and to have their account information and to see the importance and the value of the elite and preferred coverage. To me, part of it comes down to what type of business we're calling on. And we've talked about this a little bit. I call them the national chains. Probably not our best prospects. One, I think they're mostly going to be salaried employees that may not feel they can take the time to actually talk to you. And as we talked about, they're probably going to write more base coverage, if anything, and it might not stay on the books. For me personally, and again, this came from Brad years ago, locally owned businesses. They're small to medium size, and you'll have a management that's open-minded and who believes family heritage has value and is important for their clients. Guys, any thoughts on any of that before we?
Can I share a story real quick, Trish?
Yeah. Yes.
I sat down with a lady, actually her husband first, and I went back and demoed her later. But they own 2 businesses in this area. And when I sat down with her and went through it, she saw the value in it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she's a business owner. So, I was, unfortunately, the day before, I had been working in South Carolina, right across the border in Hilton Head.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot to switch it back over.
Mm-hmm.
So their rates are a lot less over there.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. And, it happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm going through the end. And when I got to the end of it, because I know Georgia versus South Carolina, I realized I made a mistake. And I told her, I said, Angel, listen, I just showed you South Carolina. Because they were talking about purchasing some property in South Carolina. She's like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, well, it is, but it isn't. Because South Carolina, you have to do the whole 25 years. In Georgia, and she was 55. I said, if you're under 56, you only have to do it to your 65th birthday. But it's more. She goes, well, how much more? So I showed her and she goes, well, that is more, but Yeah, sign me up on that. And that was actually Georgia.
Yeah.
We have that down here. So a lot of those people, like you're talking about, those age brackets, 50, 55 years old, those clients, they hook up on it quick because they know they're not gonna have to pay into it for 25 years.
Greg, that's not for like North Carolina. That's pretty specific to Georgia. I don't want to confuse everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
All right,
yeah.
Greg. No, I'm not Greg. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I don't want to confuse. That's probably one of those little caveats that's different for Georgia guys. Every state actually has different offerings. So, Greg, thank you. Greg, is that all right? I don't want to confuse everybody.
No, I understand. I apologize.
No, Greg, don't apologize. But Greg, you know what I love about your story is that you were a person. And for those of us that work in different states, we do have to flip our iPads back and forth. But you know what? Greg's a person. He made an honest mistake and he was honest about it. And the person he was sitting with gave him a little bit of grace and said, hey, you know what? No big deal. And it actually worked out better for her. So we've talked about this. Seek out businesses that have an obvious need. Their employers may be at a higher risk due to the nature of their work. Again, this is coming a lot from my personal experience. Auto repair, body shops, HVAC, landscapers, contracts. They will see the obvious need for accident right up front. And then you can bring in the cancer because of what they're exposed to. Even if they start off with an accident, that gives you room to go back at a later time and resurface and add the cancer. Guys, ask for referrals to actually not just other people, but to other businesses. And then learn about your community. Guys, I feel like we're kind of running out of time here and there's a lot of good stuff. I can go quickly over it or we can kind of save it and pick it up next time. What would you all like to do?
I think you can go over it quickly.
All right, quickly. All right, guys, we won't tell Van we went over. So how to maximize your time. I did this yesterday. I do it. This is how I work every day. I make a hot list of businesses. You know, I may Google, I don't know, contractors near a certain town or near where I'm at, and I'll have a list of 10 to 15 potential warm calls. I'll plug that into my sales rabbit to make an efficient route. But at the same time, don't drive by businesses that are along your route for the day just because they weren't on your hot list. I've gotten more businesses from places that I did not intend to drive, didn't even know about, and turned around. I was driving and saw them and turned around and went back. Always ask for referrals. And most importantly, be mindful and protect your time. Greg, Brandy, any thoughts on that before we kind of finish up here?
Nope, I'm good on that one.
You're good on that one. All right, let me see how long. This is just a little bit of a fun thing.
I think we all need a pep talk. You need to stop being boring. Yeah, boring is easy. Everybody can be boring, but you're gooder than that. Life is not a game, people. Life isn't a cereal either. Well, it is a cereal. And if life is a game, are we on the same team? I mean, really, right? I'm on your team, you're on my team. This is life, people. You got air coming through your nose. You got heartbeat. That means it's time to do something. A poem. Two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled. It hurt, man! Really bad. Rocks, thorns, and glass. My parts broke. Wah! Not cool, Robert Frost. But was that where we were? Too bad. I won't be the one that leads to awesome. It's like that dude Journey said. Don't stop believing unless your dream's stupid. Then you should get a better dream. I think that's how it goes. Get a better dream and keep going. Keep going, and keep going. Well, Michael Jordan have quit. Well, he didn't quit. Oh, he retired. Yeah, that's he retired. But before that, in high school, what if he quit when he didn't make the team? He would have never made Space Jam. And I love Space Jam. What will be your Space Jam? What will you create will make the world awesome? Nothing if you keep sitting there. That's why I'm talking to you today. This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other. If we're all on the same team, let's start acting like it. We got work to do. We can cry about it, or we can dance about it. We were made to be awesome. Let's get out there. I don't know everything. I'm just a kid. But I do know this. It's everybody's youth, the gift, the world, the reason to dance. So get to it. You just give a pep talk. Create something that will make the world awesome. Play ball. I think.
Okay, guys. So I hope this was a good time. It's kind of amazing to me how what we talk about seems to always line up with what somebody needs this week. We're having a rough day. We're having a rough week. You want to quit? Just be honest with yourself. It happens. But it's not so much that it happened, but the important thing is how do we react to it? Right? Do we go back to having good activity? Do we go back to using our sales talk? Do we just go see one more? Because we never know when that one more is going to turn around our whole day. Or do we run home? Or do we give up on the sales talk? You don't know the next person you walk into, what a different potential difference you may have on their life down the road. Guys, I love each and every one of you. I love doing this call. Any last closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Let's just have a good day, everyone.
Yep. And like Brandy says, we are a blessing. We are here for a reason. Just be guided during the day. Go be you. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye.